It's Monday night. We're live on here. Of course, I forgot to upload my intro once again. I was trying to get it on here and it downloaded right after I hit it live here. But he's Kerry. This is Frank. We're the House of Orange live tonight. And I entitled this Not Just Bama Talk. We're going to talk plenty of Bama tonight, but we're going to talk football. We're going to talk basketball. We're going to try to talk baseball. We're going to try to fit it all in tonight. I pride this thing on calling it, an all sports Tennessee sports channel. We're going to talk a lot about that tonight. But before we get into this thing, hit that thumbs up, share this thing out tonight. I'd like to get up over 100 viewers tonight. Maybe it happens as we get toward the latter part of the show. Share this thing out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you go. It's greatly appreciated. But I told you I had a good question for you to start off. So if you guys tuned in with us Saturday night, of course, Kerry come on. I had him a big stogie going on at the time. Were you able to save your voice Saturday night since that piped in crowd noise come through for us?
Yeah, for the most part. My thing is I can't necessarily scream a lot. Like I try to scream, of course, as much as I can. I'm more of a clapper. I'll be the guy clapping my rear end off because I can't scream necessarily. Because my thing is I scream and then I'm on the verge of passing out, which did happen probably a minimum of 5 times on Saturday night. Like it's like I scream until I just lose all feeling, and then it's like I'm about to pass out, so I got to stop. So I kind of got to pace myself with the screaming.
So obviously that was debunked. That was one of the dumbest comments I've heard. Of course, sour grapes going on in Tuscaloosa. No surprise on that one. Couldn't happen to a better bunch. How loud was it Saturday night? No joking aside. I've seen so many people. Was that, and you've been to some loud ones.
Yeah.
Was this the loudest?
I would say for the entire game, absolutely the loudest. It is now 48 hours since the game. My ears are literally still hurting. Like my ears have felt totally different yesterday. They felt different today. They've been hurting. Like it's not. I've been to a lot of games in Neyland. I've been to a lot of the loud games in Neyland. I've never experienced ear pain after a game like I have. I've been to concerts. I went to the Morgan Wallen concert and everything in Neyland. Like I've experienced loud atmospheres, and my ears are literally hurting at the time of me talking right now from the game because it was that loud of an environment. From the second the flyover happened to the last whistle, it was a madhouse. There was a lot of times where you couldn't think, and a lot of people say that like, oh, it was so loud in there I couldn't think. Like I couldn't. There was times where I just blacked out from it just being so loud. Especially when Jamad McCoy made that interception, the crowd pop on that was insane. Like it was like I lost all feeling in my body whenever Jamad McCoy made that interception and started running down the field, just simply because of the moment and the crowd noise. And I have a perfect video of that I need to share as well.
Was there ever a point where the crowd kind of got out of it, where the offense was struggling, where they missed so many deep throws? Do you feel like there was ever a point that the wind was kind of starting to come out of them, or did they stay pretty consistent for the most part?
Yeah, I would say it was pretty consistent. It was kind of shades of last week's game against Florida with the crowd. I would say the turnovers in the first half that kind of did demoralize the crowd, but they never did let up. I noticed that. I think Nico's injury, kind of before that, that was kind of a playing ground where it was like the crowd kind of got out of it after the kickoff, and then after the injury happened, um, through the interception, which of course that kind of took the crowd out. But after he came back in on the next drive, you had the Nico chance. After that, it was a great atmosphere in my mind. But Nico will say the exact same thing of he had the hit, he got the crap knocked out of him, and then he woke up and played better after that. And I feel like the crowd kind of, I wouldn't say get silenced, but it was a little bit different than it was the first few minutes of the game up until he kind of got hit. Because I mean, we weren't doing anything except on defense. So I think it was good to see after the Nico chant started how the crowd kind of truly played a factor in the rest of the game.
I thought it was funny. I was texting with a couple buddies of mine on it, and we were out, man, it stinks Nico went out one of them. He said, man, I hate Nico's out, but can it really be any worse at this point? And
Yeah,
then Gaston Moore
sure.
comes in, and yeah, that
I love
question
that.
got answered really quick right there. I mean, to the point of, if we got to go to a backup again, I'm probably going Jake Merklinger and not thinking twice about it. But I get it. You finally get your chance. It was a horrible pass. It was absolutely horrible. But I guess you get your chance, you try to make the most of it. And you know what? If you're not going to make a big play in the positive, you might as well make a big negative play. You might as
Yep.
well some kind of impression. And that's what Gaston Moore did. But let's get into this thing. There's a lot to talk about in this game. Let's start with the defense. I could get your overall thoughts on it and where we go, but let's start with this defense tonight. This defense, man, once again, they did their job. They were solid all night. Tennessee, well, what's your thoughts on it? I mean, I don't really know I think I know what your thoughts will be, but what can you say about this defense, man? What stood out to you based on their whole game plan, what they did, what impressed you the most about what this defense did on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, the defense, they've impressed us week in and week out now. But the thing is about this, and if you'll scroll through social media the past few days, they're criticizing Jalen Milroe and his performances. And one of the things about it, if you look at it, he was playing an elite defense on Saturday. They were in his face the entire time. The crowd noise was playing a factor. He couldn't see a lot of guys just because of the atmosphere. And you have the best front seven in the nation in his face, and that's missing the leader of the front seven and Keenan Pili. It's just crazy what that defense has done, especially considering the fact that that is a Alabama offensive line that is stacked. They only had one guy hurt on the offensive line, and I'm not even sure if he was even really that big of a factor. I know if you pull up your console right now and you play College Football 25, 4 of the offensive linemen are their star players. So it's like Tennessee. To put that into perspective, Tennessee only has 1, and that's Cooper Mays. They have 4 in the game. So Tennessee just dominated 4 stars essentially in real life, that was crazy to see because I didn't realize their offensive line was that good until I played College Football 25 last Thursday night. And I was like, well, crap, their offensive line is good once again. I thought they all transferred. I hope they transferred, but they didn't. But Tennessee still dominated their offensive line, which was crazy to see. There for sure wasn't enough as much pressure as we have seen. There was a lot of times where they did make a really good pocket for Milroe, but man, they totally dominated that game, especially in the fourth quarter.
I thought they were a little slow from the beginning. I thought they were, the pressure wasn't as much, but yeah, once you got to about maybe second quarter or so, I mean, I thought Milroe had time early. Last 3 quarters of that game, he had to get rid of it quick. And he missed some throws too, no doubt about it. But I think that was a result of the pressure that was on him. I mean, to me, there was people saying, well, Milroe missed these open throws. Yeah. I'll tell you what, if we're going on open throws missed, if you want to compare open throws missed, Nico hits his deep balls. I don't think Milroe hit anything that would have been a touchdown. But Nico hits his versus what Milroe hits. Tennessee blows them out of the building. It's not even close. And obviously you're watching it live. You're there. Did you think it was 2 evenly matched teams? Did you think Tennessee was lucky to win, that Bama was a better team, or did you think Tennessee looked like the better team to you on Saturday night? I have some thoughts on it, but I'm curious to see what you think.
I mean, I fully believe that Tennessee was the better team, and if they played in on neutral site, that Tennessee would win the game, and that's solely based off the defense. If you look at it, we scored 0 points in the first half, and that's the 3rd straight week we've done that in a row. You score even 10 points in the first half, and that ball game's over. Like, it should have been 21-7 at halftime. There's no doubt about it, and that's just giving them 7 points because they got the 7 points kind of because of gift. So, in my opinion, we should have dominated in the first half, but that's not how football works. You're going to have first halves like that. You're going to have a river you're going to have to cross, which is what Tennessee had to, and they've had that river they've had to cross for the past few weeks. So hopefully it was a eye-opener for them getting over that. But, of course, I have to say that Tennessee's a better team. I mean, we won the game. You don't win it just by just getting lucky. You saw that. I mean, Vanderbilt outplayed them, and they won it. You don't beat Bama by being lucky. That you don't just truly beat Bama just because you're lucky. You have to have a lot of different factors play into it, in my opinion.
I thought Tennessee was a lot better team. I really did. I think if Tennessee would have hit on some of those deep balls and stuff, I don't think it's close. I know the game was close, but to me, I think Tennessee's defense was a lot better. I think Tennessee stops itself on offense. I truly think Tennessee stopped itself. There were guys running open all game long. It was just a matter of Nico hit him. You mentioned after he took that blow and went out, he played a lot better.
He did
after that. But this defense, man, like you said, the line played good all night. People have talked about here. Let me hit some comments here as well. David Burgess, first one in here, said, hello, Vol Nation, the House Orange. What's up, David? Good to have you in here. Old Tim Bradley, he still don't give a damn about the whole state of Alabama. Go Big Orange. I don't either, Tim. Not a single inch of it. Reese Winters, this was one I wanted to hit. Linebackers were huge, no drop off at all with the Philly loss. William Inge, top coaching hire of this year. I thought the linebackers played a really good game.
They did.
I thought they played an excellent football game the other night. I'll be honest, I did not notice Jalen Smith much, but from what I was reading about him, he graded pretty good on PFF, which, take those how you will. He graded pretty well, and I seen some comments talk about he played well as well. D-Hurt 8955, hello, guys. What's up, D-Hurt? Good to have you here. Papa J, member of the channel, says, my ulcer thought we were better. Come on, Papa J, you've watched Tennessee long enough. Tennessee never does things the easy way. What fun would that be? I guess Tennessee likes to test all Tennessee fans' life expectancy because they're a heart attack waiting to happen. It does not matter what the sport is. It doesn't matter. I mean, you think the national championship game of baseball's in hand, and here A&M cuts it to a run. But so you were on the field. So did you have any plans to storm it?
No, I don't. It was a very delayed storm. It wasn't planned. There was the recruits that jumped off. I saw people.
Did that really happen?
That wasn't something I noticed. I wasn't looking at that side of the field, more or less. I also couldn't see that side of the field considering all the people in the way. So I couldn't see if the recruits in the black shirts were jumping onto the field. I did see there was a lot of people. The first people I saw was actually behind the Alabama bench, and it wasn't the student section. So that was the first people I saw. And then down at the Alabama gate where the players run in and out, there was a storm surge pretty much that just all at once. And I was like, okay, like we're a lot more people's getting on the field. We're rushing the field now. And I think a lot of people actually saw them jump down and the security guards not doing anything. So it was release the hounds after that. And then 5 minutes later, you saw what it was.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wonder. If not, a few people went and then everybody just followed. I was kind of like, man, come on. We just beat them 2 years ago. I mean, I understand, going to this comment. I mean, Bama's made all this money off Tennessee and Vandy. I mean, I guess we took that Arkansas money and gave it right back to Bama. Yeah. So I understand why Vandy did it. They hadn't beaten Alabama in ages. Bama was ranked, number one?
Yeah, they were number one.
I mean, how can you blame Vandy? Tennessee, I mean, hey, whatever. It doesn't matter to me, honestly, but I didn't think there was any point in it. We need to get to a point now. We've beaten them 2 times in 3 years. If we beat them again in 2 years, we don't need to storm the field.
Well, I think that's the last opportunity. If you really think about it, like it's not happening again. Like we're not rushing the field again unless Georgia wins the national championship this year and we have a awesome matchup next November against Georgia. That'd be the only other scenario I see Tennessee rushing the field again in the foreseeable future, because it's definitely not happening again against Alabama unless Nick Saban comes back.
Could it happen if, we'll get into this talk later, Tennessee makes playoffs, hosts a playoff game and wins it?
No, absolutely. That's shut down. They'll bring in different security for that reason. Because, I mean, you got to think, is it going to be like the baseball NCAA tournament of like you don't even have control of your own scoreboard? Like that was the thing that I hated about the NCAA baseball tournament going to the games is it was just a plain scoreboard. There was no replays. There was nothing. There was no Tennessee footage shown. There was no like player intro shown or anything. It was just this bland thing. Even the PA announcer had to be just neutral. So it was awful. That was an awful experience in my opinion. So hopefully that's not the same for football, because if it is, a lot of people are going to be upset about that.
That's interesting. I had not actually heard that before, so that's pretty interesting to hear that. We're going to talk about quarterback here just a minute. But, want to look at this comment. So I think quarterbacks in general have had a hard time settling into the game plans. Also think defense have got sick of getting picked on over the last couple seasons and are outpacing them with the new clock rules. I really think, man, with Tennessee's, it's self-inflicted. I just can't. It definitely was this week. But I said I was going to hit some comments, get back into the defense here, and I'll catch back up. I know there's more comments. Thank you, guys. We're up to 60 right now. I'd like to push this thing over 100 tonight. Be pretty cool to hit 100 tonight. I don't know if we'll get there or not, but hey, a young man can dream. But the defense, we talked about the line. Linebackers, I thought they played a good ball game. What did you think about the secondary, man? What was your opinion on them the other night?
I think it was amazing to see because I mean that's a secondary that I've seen my entire life get torched by everyone. I've never seen a good Tennessee secondary in my lifetime. So I mean this is the first season I'm actually seeing a secondary work for them. So it's great to see considering the fact that they only got like 3 or 4 yards in the last 3 drives, which is just like I posted yesterday. I don't know. Of course, half you guys probably didn't see it, but for years, they just late game situations. We had a lead. They needed to get yardage, and they got the yardage. They just marched down the field. They didn't always score. They didn't always win the game, but they moved the ball at will, and that didn't happen on Saturday night because of Will Brooks.
Yeah. What you think about the I guess it was Bama's next to last drive. Tennessee stops them. Boo Carter does a little bit of instigating, gets the 15-yard penalty. What did you think about that?
I didn't see that. I totally missed that when I was at the game. I didn't see it till after. I'm okay with him saying whatever he said for the first second or two. I think he should have just said something and then turned around and walked away. I think he kind of said something and then proceeded with it, and he kept on getting in his face. At that point, you can't do that, Boo. Like, that should have been a penalty on both sides. I mean, he didn't like punch him. People were saying, oh, he threw a punch. He tried to slap him. Like, that wasn't a punch attempt. But I truly believe that that should have been called both sides. So I will say that we did get a fair call on that one. Because in my eyes, after rewatching it, that's an unsportsmanlike conduct on both guys. It's offsetting because it's after the play, so it doesn't affect anything. It still would have been 4th down. But we got a good call there, in my opinion. Or it would have been, what was it? 3rd down?
It would have been 4th and 7.
Oh, 4th and 7.
It ended up 4th and 22.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would have been the difference.
I couldn't tell if Boo actually did it or if Arion Carter blocked him. It kind of looked in a respect, but it could have just been, I know Arion Carter was stepping in. I'd heard something he told Boo, said, hey, let them do that. We don't need to do that. Yeah. But, Boo's a fired up dude. But, in a respect, it evened out because we got called for a personal foul face mask earlier on by Jermod McCoy, while the Alabama guy had McCoy's face mask as well. So it evened out when it was all said and done.
I tried. I spent like 10, 15 minutes yesterday trying to find that, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I cannot. It wasn't Ryan Williams, I don't believe. I think it was one of their other guys. But, yeah, Jermod McCoy definitely had the face mask, but that dude had his as well. Oh, and okay. that's an offsetter in that case. Yeah. See, looking at some more of the comments here, we can't say it was any score. Who knows how Bama would have responded? The what ifs we can't do. General says Tennessee was a better team. I thought they were definitely better the other night. That's not to say Bama couldn't beat Tennessee by any means, but yeah, I'm left wondering at this point how in the world Bama beat Georgia after the way Georgia whipped Texas's ass the other night. There's no other way around it. From beginning to end.
They did.
And Georgia, it was a bad call to begin with. And then when Texas fans start throwing stuff on the field, the freaking refs overturn it. So I guess they owe Tennessee an overturn from 3 years ago at this point. So secondary, I thought played good. McCoy was when I've seen the stats on him from VolQuest and some of these that have posted it, Brent Hubbs posted some stats about Jermod McCoy, and they're pretty eye-opening as to just how good he is. He's been targeted. I had it. Let me see if I still got it up or if I erased it. All right. So in SEC play, McCoy has been targeted 27 times. The opponents in 27 attempts, 11 receptions for 135 yards. The longest one is 30 yards. I'm assuming that was probably against Arkansas because really nobody else has hit anything of length on McCoy. He has 2 interceptions. That one he had Saturday was phenomenal. He has at least another pass breakup. He has only given up 25 yards after the catch. He is yet to give up a touchdown this season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any doubt about it who the top pickup for Tennessee was out of the portal. It was McCoy. He has made a big difference. And I think they've had a lot of good pickups out of the portal for sure. The Will Brooks, to me, I think you could make a few cases for player of the game. I said I gave it to Pierce, I gave it to Brooks, I gave it to McCoy. Man, if I had to give it to one, I would have had a hard time not giving it to Will Brooks. He saved a touchdown. Mm-hmm. He had a big play in the backfield, and then he had the game-clinching interception. I mean, did you imagine this guy being as good as he would be?
I knew there was possibility of it, considering he's playing the safety position, and he earned the spot for a reason. So that spoke for itself. I didn't expect him to be the MVP of the Alabama game, the third Saturday in October. That definitely never crossed my mind. So that's definitely a surprise.
Well, I know we had talked about in our preseason preview was that didn't really necessarily give us a lot of confidence that a walk-on, but I think we were both in the same kind of in agreement that we're not there. We'll trust the coaches that it's the best can. And I think they've done pretty good. Their safeties have looked a lot better this year. Mm-hmm. Turntine has made some plays. I think Christian Charles keeps getting better week by week. Jacoby Thomas will absolutely knock the crap out of you. He had a couple big plays on that. Had 1.5 tackles for loss. And then Will Brooks, man, I mean, I cannot think of a time this year anybody's gotten behind the safeties. They gave the touchdown up the goal line against Florida, but as far as anybody getting behind them, maybe Arkansas did, and I'm forgetting it.
No, I don't remember a deep shot downfield like that was caught, at least.
I don't either. I mean, Arkansas hit some deeper shots, but it wasn't over the safety. I think the secondary has been a lot better this year to me. And maybe that's a product as well of, they always say a good defensive line makes for a better secondary.
Yeah. You also can't underestimate what Jermod McCoy's doing. I mean, he's the first guy we've seen in a long time, just a straight up lockdown. You've had guys in the past like Bryce Thompson, Alontae Taylor that come to my mind first that were great corners, but they weren't truly as locked down as you're seeing Jermod McCoy. And that takes a whole lot of pressure off the other 3, 4, or 5 defensive backs that you have.
I thought that was I agree with you. The old Revis Island. This is the first island guy that we've had. I never considered Bryce Thompson or Alontae Taylor those island type guys. And I can't remember anybody under Butch Jones that I would consider really an island type guy.
Cam Sutton was good, but he wasn't.
Cam Sutton was probably the closest that we'd had going back.
Because Mosley kind of peaked in the NFL. He didn't necessarily peak when he was here.
Who's that?
Emmanuel Mosley. Doing good in the
gosh,
NFL.
Yeah, he was much better in the NFL than he was here. I'm trying to think, man. I'm trying to think when Terry Fair was there. Terry Fair was a heck of a player. That was a long time ago, though. Man, there has to be some, but I'm blanking out on. Let me get caught up on the comments. Some of you guys in the comments may think of some dudes here as well. I'm going to get to this point. Nico needs to run early and often. If he and Sampson are running the passing lanes, will open even more. I want to get to that point. I think it's a good one. The tougher the game, the sweeter the victory. Absolutely.
The sweeter the score,
Jones, he never gave a damn about the whole state of Alabama. Neither did I. I don't think any of us did. Defense definitely carrying the load while Nico grows. And if we can keep winning while he progresses, we can be dangerous. I think you made a comment on your Twitter at some point about it, and we'll hit that a minute. There's some real good points on here. Absolutely love Squirrel and him pushing through injury, but Squirrel had a rough one.
Yep.
He had a rough one the other night.
I don't see how you run him out in 2 weeks against Kentucky. I really don't.
Hey man, it's gonna be.
He was hurting the team, in my opinion, after the first target that he had. Whenever he probably should have caught the ball in the first or second drive, I went back and when I watched the game, I mean his right shoulder is below his left shoulder, like it's visible before he even got really hit the ground, really got hit by anybody. And you can't tell me that it doesn't affect it. And you saw some very catchable balls that he could have caught. And that also kind of changes the one that Nico really overthrew him on. Maybe he gains another half a yard if he has a good shoulder. Because I mean, running that does affect your whole body. If you got a messed up shoulder, it's a little bit harder to run, and you can't deny that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Mr. Jones says we score 30. Our defense we can beat. I don't think anyone can beat. I agree on that. I mean, we are yet to give up 20 points.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Great show, guys. Kerry, what's your Facebook name? And I'll follow you on.
I mean, it's my name, but I haven't posted on Facebook in years.
Okay.
I only use it for Facebook Marketplace, and I don't even buy anything off of there. So,
okay. 10 of D-Vols. I like it. Phil Nico is going to start to slow down for him into solid and clutch play in the second half is big for conference. Beating Bama as a freshman, absolutely. Was Pierce offsides on that one?
They didn't call it offsides.
Exactly. I'm sticking with it, but
I'm
telling you what, if he was not offsides, then he knows how to time a snap.
I mean, he's done it the whole time he's been here. So he even did it.
I was pretty shocked that one was not called. Hey, this one, chat my hind end right here. Jalen Milroe he has still not made that first down.
No.
Wasn't even close. He was not even close on that one. And they got the ball. Was not even close. Ridiculous. That's pathetic by the officials. Yep. We need that Ole Miss game back. Absolutely. Absolutely. Congratulations, Texas. Not only Georgia whooped your ass, but they're laughing all the way to the bank with the $250,000 check. Will Brooks did have a great game. This is probably right. Alabama does not want the state of Tennessee anymore. Tennessee and Vanderbilt both handed it to them. Will Brooks for president. There we go. Will Brooks, if you're voting next week or here in a couple of weeks, there's your guy, Will Brooks.
I already voted.
Did you vote for Will Brooks?
Yeah, I voted for Will Brooks. I wrote him in.
There you go. One vote for Will, a couple votes for Will Brooks. Right here's the problem with Squirrel, man. Other than that, you talked about his shoulder too, but like Nico threw that one deep ball. He put it right on the money. Here's Squirrel's jumping,
diving,
catch it. I don't know where all this jumping and diving to catch the ball crap has come from, but that's killing him. What were you about to say on it?
I was just saying he dove and he didn't need to dive for it, in my opinion.
No.
I mean, the only time he really catches the ball, it seems like, is the screen passes or the short curl routes where he doesn't really have any other option than to stand still and catch it. I mean, even on the play in the first quarter, he's only reaching for the ball with one hand. So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what's going on with him.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a rough year. I mean,
yeah, even before the injury.
Yeah, I think I would be really curious to see how many drops he has this year. And, I wouldn't say much about I know he's better than this. Yeah. And I'm sure the injury right now is affecting him. But like you said, he was it was the Ramel Keaton syndrome. Mm-hmm. How Ramel Keaton was his last, Ramel Keaton had some rough years. Early on under Pruitt, was it? Mm-hmm. It was the year they went to the bowl. He had his moments of dropping passes. And then the first 2 years, he did pretty good, especially the 11-2 season. And then last year, he's back to dropping the ball. Now you got Squirrel. He was the main guy last year. Here he is having trouble with it. Sutton's the best one I can think of in recent memory. I mean, that's I'd have to go back and look, but I can't think of, like you said, there's some guys who went to the NFL, and Emmanuel Mosley's gotten paid. I mean, I think he's had trouble staying healthy, but he earned his money. Oh man, Dale Carter. Yeah, that's a long time ago there. But Dale Carter and Carl Pickens, man, that was two of the best that I've seen come through Tennessee. Both those dudes. Carl Pickens was an awesome wide receiver and an awesome corner. He may be one of, if not the best athletes who's ever played for Tennessee. Pickens. Dale Carter was awesome. The offside's negated due to the fake injury. That fake did you catch the fake injury from your seat?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
God.
That was I mean, I was screaming for unsportsmanlike conduct, which it should have been, but I mean, the officials did kind of mess that up, considering the fact that they said that they should have been allowed a substitution. To me, that makes no sense. If that's the case, then I'm letting the offense run out there, and then I'm stopping the game and I'm making a sub. If that's the rule, like Matt Austin explained it, that's what I'm going to do. Every time the offense runs out after kickoff, I'm going to let them come out there. I'm going to see what the guys they have out there. I'm going to make my adjustment real quick, and I'm sending the guys I need out there. Because, I mean, considering that's what Matt Austin said you could do, so
yeah,
why not do it?
I don't think Alabama had a beef on that one. I mean, they were the ones who put the personnel in. Like I said, they put them out there like that, and then they're trying to get them off. That was – DeBoer had no beef at all.
The injury part was horrific. I mean, they were running around like chaos. And the guy, I mean, he ran behind the wide receiver to get onto the field, so there was a lot going on there.
What's the fix for this stuff? I mean, we talked about it a little bit, me and Backwoods and some of the people in the comments Saturday night, but what's the fix for this?
There's so many options you could go with the fix. I think of course, at minimum, sit out for the rest of the drive. It could be sit out for 5 minutes of game time. There's so many different punishments you could give them. You can't just let them sit out a play and come back. At minimum, it has to be the end of the drive. You have to punish the team, so that way, if like James Pierce Jr., whenever he went down and you could say, well, there's a fake injury, it probably was, or he may have actually been cramping. I'm not sure. If you lose him for the rest of the series, that changes a lot. And you're going to see all these teams like Ole Miss and everybody that take advantage of the fake injuries, which at this point in college football, you have to. You're going to see that number shrink drastically.
It's ridiculous, man. I agree with you. That's the minimum. I mean, the fact that Lane Kiffin has done it so long and nothing gets done about it. I guarantee you, if Tennessee was doing it all the time like Lane Kiffin's doing it, there would have been something put in by now about it. If Tennessee were to do that crap to Alabama, there'd be something put in place by the weekend for it. It's ridiculous. It needs to go. And frankly, it's cowardly football. You know, if you can't defend a fast defense, go to the freaking house. You know, I've seen people saying, oh, the worst thing we need to see is Kiffin go to Florida. Go to Florida. Go there. He's too big of a bonehead to ever win big. Because that's him. He has gimmicks. Yeah. He's a clown. People wanted him back with hype. Well, I don't want him back. He is he's a decent coach. Don't get me wrong, but who's he beat to justify all this? I mean, what with the Ole Miss? Doing nothing fancy with the Ole Miss. People ask about Sampson. I agree with this. If Sampson balls out against Georgia, and especially if Tennessee were to win, Dylan Sampson's in the Heisman hunt.
He should already be in the Heisman hunt.
He should be. He should absolutely be in it. Yeah, absolutely. That was, right here. He should be getting more of it. Absolutely. Man, this would be an interesting one, and I would be all for this. This dude would probably be a hoss. Jemai Meshack for the other lockdown corner. If Heupel could get him from Barnes for a bit, that would be something to see. Right here's one. I'm charging my timeout. Especially we can replay everything there is to replay. When you see these guys just blatantly lay down, there's a timeout, there's the end of the drive. If not, somebody other than I think said maybe 15 minutes of time. So I don't know if that was real time or if that was game time. You mentioned 5 minutes of game time, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good one. Somebody said cut 10% of their NIL money and 10% of the coach's salary. I know it was tongue in cheek, but I was like, that would fix it in a hurry.
They wouldn't even get, they'd be running off the field with a broken leg at that point.
Yeah. Hey, John Jay, guess who else we beat? Your Florida Gators. So don't forget that one. Defense. Anything else to throw on the defense? Because I got a few interesting things tonight. I'm trying to think. Was there anything else defense? I mean, so many plays, so many big plays in this game. Is there any that we've not mentioned?
Not really.
Because I really try to hit the big ones. I'll have to go back a little bit, but going to offense, and we talked about, I said I wanted to get to this. The offense was obviously, here's one thing about it. I don't think you can blame the coaches, and you cannot blame the offensive line, whether or not for those guys not producing. It was, to me, it was a combination of Nico, and it was a combination of the wide receivers, because Nico would either overthrow them and he had the one horrible interception. You've got to eat that one. But I'll tell you what, on that one, I said I didn't have a problem with the coaches. On that play I did, they showed those routes on TV. They were all three hitch and goes. And you're, 20, 25-yard line then?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty close down. That was on your end where you were at, right?
Yeah, that was on my end.
There was nobody short on that route, was it? Yeah. Everybody was in the end zone, right?
Yeah, it was.
I don't get that. Somebody's got to explain that one, what the play call was. But at the same time, Nico's either got to run out of bounds or throw it out of bounds.
Yeah.
You can not do that in that game.
Because Brew wasn't even close to being open.
No, he was, there was a blanket around him.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody was open, were they?
No, there was
the guy across the middle wasn't open. Of course, the guy on the other side of the field, they're not going to just throw it across the field to him. But that was a terrible play. That was awful. I can live with if you overthrow, so be it.
He made such a good throw before that, too.
Yeah.
The one before that was so good, and then he did that. So that's what made me the most mad about that, was he made a beautiful, perfect throw that was on the run. Great view from my seat of him just totally slinging it across his body to Brew right on the money. And then the next play, just a total mishap. That was beyond a freshman mistake, in my opinion.
That was horrific. That was bad. You cannot do that.
No.
I thought he made some good throws the other night. It seemed like he would make, of course, he would overthrow a guy, and then we'd have a drop. And, there were some passes that I don't think you can consider drops, because guys were, like the first play of the game to Brew, it was behind him. We mentioned last week, you get both hands on the ball, to me, that's a drop. I know it's not perfectly thrown, but it's the SEC. I bet if you ask Brew McCoy, he'd tell you should have caught that football, even though I know it's not an easy catch on it. But do you think that play to Thornton in the second half on the run, when honestly I didn't have a lot of confidence, especially the way the play started? Here he throws it down. It's an awesome throw. It's an awesome catch. Could that be the play that changes Tennessee's offense for this season?
Until I see otherwise, of course, I think it does. That's 3rd down and 6. He scrambles out of the pocket and he just throws up a prayer, and his prayer managed to be a perfect throw on the money. That totally changed the game plan after that, because after that, everything happened. Like you had guys downfield that were open. You could run the ball. You could hit the short throws. You could get Nico out of the pocket and move. That changed everything to me. That's one of those throws that you kind of see it click after that. And I kind of do wish we didn't have a bye week this week so that you could see that click happen. So unfortunately, we're going to have to wait. So we may have another dry spout, unfortunately, which I hate with everything in me. But to me personally, that's a total season changer. just that one play. I mean, that's third down and 6. You're not really in. You're at that point, you're punting the ball from where you were, considering it was third and 6. Field goal's not an option. Fourth down, you can't trust us to get fourth down and 6 and give them great field position. You do up a prayer, and it could end up saving our season.
Yeah, and there was one that hit earlier. I got to go back just a little ways on it. I agree with this right here. I would get Nico running early and often, because when he started running, that seemed to me like when his game really took off. I mean, he took that lick, went out. He said that woke him up. But that throw, too. I mean, he had the big run later on that got down. That was what, a 27-yard gain? I think it was on that. I saw Papa J mention here at the end, and I agreed on this. Let me get back to his comment. Hated conservative play call in the last 2 drives. Would you have kicked the field goal on the last offensive play, or would you went for it and tried to end the game?
I was thinking about it. I like the field goal just for the fact that if you make it, it's a 7-point game. If you miss it, it's a nightmare situation. But I don't think going for it was that good of an option, because, I mean, if you go for it and you stuff them, it's a huge difference. I would take the risk of – you have a much better chance of making the field goal than you do of getting the first down, in my opinion, there, because in reality, you're just going to run the ball, and you're trusting a very, very, very spotty offensive line. I get you have a Heisman candidate in the backfield, but that's a tall task in that situation.
I think it was probably the right call. I think the kamikaze in me would have probably went for it to try to end it. I don't know that was the right call, though, to be honest with you. I would have at some point, because I think you're looking at from the outside, you got to think Alabama is expecting Dylan Sampson's getting the ball. At some point, I would have let Nico keep it.
Yeah.
To see if he could have gotten it. Because there was a time or two, to me, it looked open.
Yeah. Or you could have did the same thing you did in overtime against Florida. First play, you just pull it and hit the tight end on an out route. So
you could have did that. You could have ran the somebody mentioned Jackson Moy, because he did have another big game. Absolutely. The package last week where Moy was in as like a fullback.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You could have ran that possibly on a couple of plays, because it had very good success last week against Florida. But that, that's kind of been the story of a Heupel offense, is they have trouble running the ball. They've had trouble each year running the game out. Normally it comes down to that conservative crap, and they end up having to kick it. So it's honestly not a surprise. It is frustrating. I totally agree on that. But who do you think the best who should be the go-to guy in your opinion as far as wide receiver goes?
I think it obviously has to be Brew. I mean, he's out there so much, and he's been a safety blanket. I get that he's had some drops. He probably had 2 very catchable balls that he dropped against this last game. So, but I mean, a lot of the times he's a safety blanket. Nico's hit him a lot. He's also made some great catches. There's been a lot of throws so far this season that Nico's made to Brew, and Brew's come down with that. I've seen a lot of different wide receivers go straight through their hands. So I still think it has to be Brew. I mean, he's the leader of this team for a reason. Dante Thornton has a great argument, but at the same time, Brew's in there every snap, it seems like, and Dante Thornton hasn't been. So I think you got to go with the guys with the most chemistry. Yeah,
I think Thornton's probably his is where he's been injured a little bit. I think Brew's your consistent guy if you need a catch, but
yeah.
I've seen even like some of the VolQuest mods question this. Do you like the wide receiver rotation?
No, because, I mean, Brew, I'm perfectly okay with Brew being in there every play. I did not like Squirrel keep on coming back in and going out there in that game until he essentially got done. Like, wherever, if he went to the hospital, whatever happened to him, like, there had to be more rotation there. The guy's playing with the injury. It's very visible hurting him, and at that point, it's hurting the team, which it did, in my opinion, and I will make that argument. I love the guy with all my heart. He had such a great season last year. He just hasn't had it this year. And sometimes, and especially in that situation when you got a guy hurt, you just got to go to the next guy. I mean, Mike Matthews and Chaz Nimrod both need to get those reps. So that opens up the offense so much more, in my opinion.
Do you think it's a case of we're probably just not going to see much of Mike Matthews the rest of this season?
I mean, he's in there. And that's the thing. Like, he's in there a lot more than people realize. He's getting a lot of snaps. The ball's just not going his way. And what necessarily ticked me off the most was he was returning kickoffs against Florida, and then you put Cam Seldon back there. And
he runs right into the
that makes it makes no sense to me. And then you give Cam Seldon these reps at the running back position, and where has he been the last few weeks? And Mike Matthews has excelled in the kickoff return game in the few attempts he's gotten actually take the ball out, and you're just throwing a guy back there in the third Saturday in October that hasn't returned a kick since the first week of the season.
Yeah, and with that one return, it's like he said, I'm going to do something. And he run right into the line. And of course, any guys that's listening, I'm high on Cam Seldon, but
yeah. Did you see he wore the ski mask too? He had the ski mask over his mouth and his nose. That ticked me off personally. Like, I understand, like, I have no issues with the guys wearing the ski mask. I think it's cool. I think it looks good. Don't cover your mouth and your nose. It was 70 degrees outside. Just because you look good doesn't mean anything. It's affecting how you play. Like, you can't convince me it's not. It's like wearing a COVID mask out there and trying to play football in it. It's just not going to benefit you the way that you think it is.
This would be an interesting. How do you think Boo Carter would be in the slot?
No. Don't put him in the slot. He's already got enough on his plate. He's already a freshman. There's so many talented guys just at that position. No. He needs to return punts like he did. They pulled Jamad McCoy from punts, and they put Boo in there in the biggest situations of the season. And he performed.
Yeah, but he didn't even attempt to catch him, did he?
I think he caught one. Yeah, he caught one or two of them because I was terrified about it. I think he caught one or two of them because I was absolutely terrified that he was going to drop the ball. But then again, I'm kind of terrified Jamal McCoy's going to drop the ball too, considering I've seen kind of the form that he has on his catches. It's kind of like straight at the face mask. So it kind of scares me.
Who's the biggest guy we missed from last year on this football team?
From last year?
See if you catch where I'm going with that.
I mean, I didn't.
The guys that left last year, who are we missing the most?
I mean, D. Williams had the Texas A&M game, but other than that, I didn't necessarily think that he did too much. He definitely didn't do as much to me as I was hoping he would. I mean, he had the Texas A&M game, and that to me was kind of it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he was supposed to be this superstar returner. Did he have a kickoff return on the season for a touchdown? No. That's how you.
I don't think he was the kick return guy, though, was he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Cam Seldon, was it not?
No, I don't think they put Cam Seldon back there. I'm pretty
sure it was Cam Seldon.
Nah, I don't think it was.
All right. Well, we'll just have to check.
We'll disagree there.
Besides D. Williams, who would you say? If you could take one guy from last year and put back on this team.
You put me on the spot here, and I'm drawing blank after blank after blank.
I don't know that I have an answer right now either, to be honest with you. But
I don't necessarily.
D. Williams was kind of who come to mind first, because I think there's been some opportunities this year. Some of these punts, it's like guys are just fair catching them or something, and D. Williams would have probably housed a couple of these this year. But we'll throw D. Williams out on that one. Who besides that would you?
I can't. I'm drawing a total blank here. I can't think of anybody else.
Well, this is definitely not one I expected. Ollie Lane?
Absolutely not.
I think Carrick has done okay. I thought he had a pretty good game last week.
I still have nightmares about Ollie Lane in the swamp last season. So.
Oh, he's one of those guys. God bless him, man. There was never a time that dude didn't give his all for Tennessee, but Tyler Barron was pretty dang good last year, and last I'd seen he'd been pretty good for Miami. But I don't think we missed him.
Unless you want Jalen Wright.
for depth purposes.
Yeah, but
I mean,
Dylan Sampson,
yeah, I mean that's. I'm trying to think receivers wise. I mean, we pretty much got everybody back. I mean, you lost Keaton. I'm trying to think. Lost. Who was the right tackle last year? Was it
Gerald Mincy.
Crawford? It was Gerald Mincy. Should we have thrown Gerald Mincy some NIL money and kept him around?
No.
I'll be honest. I don't know of any other than D. Williams. I mean, I wouldn't mind to have Aaron Beasley back. Aaron Beasley, pretty good football player. I'd take Tyler Barron back. I've always thought that one was senseless. Tyler Barron leaving because he played a big role last year. I don't know if he stayed in the doghouse. I mean, he's flirted with leaving numerous times and finally did, but I don't know. That one didn't make sense. Honestly, that was a spur of the moment question. Just thinking about D. Williams. D. Williams is the one guy I'm taking back just for punt returns. And maybe it's just because maybe you're right that he didn't do as much as we thought outside of that A&M game. But I think our punt return game's been rough this year.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody mentioned earlier that Arkansas game, Squirrel lets one go that ends up a 64-yard punt. You talk about Jermod McCoy. He's a little scary back there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Boo's that guy, though, that we need. It's which brings me to, I said I had another one, special teams.
You also, I mean, I'm, of course, comparing D. Williams to Cam Sutton, Cordell Patterson, and Evan Berry at the returning aspect of things. So it's
that's an easy one.
It's a very high standard when it comes to that position for me.
If you could have any of those four, who would you take? Now, this is an easy one to me.
Cordell Patterson.
Oh, my gosh. That dude may be, I said earlier, Carl Pickens may be the best athlete I've seen. The best guy that I think I've seen with the ball in his hands at Tennessee was Cordell Patterson. 1 year, dude, and he's done it in NFL. That dude was an absolute stud.
He was crazy.
He was an absolute stud. And Evan Berry, to me, is the most underutilized player who's ever come through Tennessee. The fact that how many kick returns, I don't remember how many kick returns he took back. The 1 year they put him in at the end in the bowl game, he takes a 100-yard interception back.
Yep.
And the fact that as electric as he was with the ball in his hands, and he never played offense for Tennessee. That was
crazy.
It was crazy. It was crazy. Cordell Patterson. He was the man. And that's saying a lot because there's been a lot of studs come through that program. And I don't think he knew the plays half the time. I think he just improvised.
He didn't. He never knew the playbook.
He just improvised and burned people, or they just give it to him on an end around and he just run around. It's like backyard football. I mean, he does it in NFL too. Who's he with now? Is it Pittsburgh I saw?
Yeah, he was with Pittsburgh. I don't know if he's
playing running back now too.
Yep.
That's pretty good. I said I had one for you on special teams because I know how you felt about this earlier in the year. Now, obviously, shorter field goals, Max Gilbert's been pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Is it time, because I know your opinion on this, that we have a competition for that 50-yard and longer field goal between him and Turby Phil?
I'm going to go. It pains me, but I think you have to go no. Just considering the fact I understand that Gilbert hasn't made one yet, but throwing Turbyville in that position is crazy. And you got a very young. Do that to Max Gilbert, you may kill him, unfortunately, because that's kind of how it works with kickers. If you take away this kid's ability to kick field goals past 50 yards or past 45 yards at this point in the season, that's a very big risk, in my opinion. And I don't like the outcome of that.
How bad were the misses? Oh, man, we're at 99 people right now. Let's get one more, guys. Send it out to one person, whoever it is.
I mean, that one kick, the 53-yard field goal, we dropped 5. That was funny. The 53-yard field goal that he just barely pushed that one right. The other one, he kind of shanked it. But the other field goal attempt, that was a really good kick. He just pushed it too far right.
I'll be curious to see since he's 0 for 3 from over 50. And I don't think they will. I think he's earned the job. But at some point, too, I think if he can't hit the long one, I think you've got to look at it. I don't know that they will because I think they're reluctant just to change things, to change them.
Yeah. But you also got to
maybe
think,
it kills his confidence.
how many reps has Josh Turbeville been getting, like in practice of kicking field goals? I don't know if that's something that's necessarily happened too much. Like he
may not be.
Maybe just in the last bye week was the last time he may have attempted a kick. So
yeah,
you
may be right on that.
When you focus on just kickoffs and perfecting that, you don't necessarily want to mess it up because there's a lot of technique things that these guys have to deal with because they're literally only doing one thing that's in their head 24/7. It's just like golf. You can't overthink it too much. You can't put too much on them. The next thing you know, you're trying to think of 3 things, and then you're just like you are out on the golf course and you're slicing your drive. You make an adjustment, you hook your drive, you're all over the place. So you can't have that because special team players are a lot like golfers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's a mental thing. I mean, it totally has to be. I'm trying to get us over 100 here tonight.
I just realized I have an assignment due. We're not. So, no fun.
We'll get you out of here.
Nah,
we'll get you out here in another hour or two. So that's hopefully you don't have too much to do on it. Still at 99, trying to get one more. But how'd that cigar taste Saturday night?
It tasted good. I barely put a dent in it though. I took so many. I mean, I kept it alive. I got it lit. This dude I didn't have a lighter, didn't have a cigar cutter or anything. I broke it off, the tip of it off, because I didn't have a cigar cutter or anything. I got it lit. This guy lit it, and it just went out like immediately. Another person had a lighter, and I had that thing. After that, the 30 minutes or 45 minutes later, whenever I finally left, it was still puffing because I took so many hits out of it, and it barely moved on the cigar. And I'm like, these people, they got little nubs, and here I am. I still got close to all my cigar, and I probably hit it more than everybody. So
you're talking about hitting it here. Now, do you have a cigar or do you have something else in there?
What else am I going to say? Oh, puffing it? Like, am I just sitting there puffing it?
Yeah, there you go. So I kind of got me questioning what you were smoking.
Well, I mean, you saw me even when I joined the stream on Saturday night. I was going ham on it.
Yeah, you were puffing that thing or hitting that thing, whichever it was. For all
that's new. That's what you call it nowadays, is hitting it. You don't call it hitting it anymore.
Was there any foul cigar smells down there that anybody tried to take advantage of?
Oh, there was people smoking cigarettes. My friend had a Black and Mild. It was everything.
There wasn't any it was left-handed cigarettes, people firing.
No, I didn't see any doobies.
God, they were just hitting the stuff of the night. Then it was a great night.
The first thing I smelled was the matches.
Oh, really?
Minute 30 left in the fourth quarter. I didn't smell the cigars at all. I smelled the matches where you strike them and you get that distinct smell. That was what I smelled. That was the first smell that I hit my nose.
It was funny on TV. They start shining it up in the crowd, and you start seeing people striking them matches. It's like fire them up on there. But it was.
I'm now experienced with it, though.
Yeah, 2 times.
2 times.
2 times in 3 years, man, and
15-year
winning streak, and now we've beaten them twice in a row at home. Anybody can say what they want about Josh Heupel, about what's going on. Yeah, his offense is not clicking the way we're used to. You said it. We'll say Josh Heupel at home is 4-0 against Florida and Alabama. People have said if you're going to succeed at Tennessee, you've got to be beating these teams. Yes, he's not beating Georgia yet. That's kind of his Achilles heel. That's his kryptonite right now. That's going to be the next step for Josh Heupel. Is like Fulmer back in the 90s. Fulmer could beat everybody.
Mm-hmm.
He could not beat Spurrier. Once he beat Spurrier, what happened? National championship happened. It happened with Bobby Bowden at Florida State. He could beat everybody. He could not beat Miami on it. Finally beat Miami, got his national championship. Mac Brown couldn't beat Oklahoma, finally beat them, got his national championship. I think with Josh Heupel in this program, I know we've not gotten that close to a national championship yet, because number one, you got to beat Georgia. Number two, you have to avoid that big whatever bed crapping that happens every year on the road against Arkansas. In terms of remaining schedule now, you asked me this a couple weeks. I'm going to ask you, how would you rank the remaining games? And I bet our order has changed a bit from then as well.
Kind of cut out here. Okay, I think I'm back. Things are back now. I heard the question though. So, of course, Georgia number one. There's no doubt about that. I still think that's a loss. I'm still counting that as a loss. Vandy. It's got to be Vandy number two behind them. I mean, at this point, we'll see what happens this weekend against Texas. I think if you're a Tennessee fan, we have to have Texas win this game, because the last thing that I want to do is be 9-2 with a lock to be in the college football playoff, go into Vanderbilt and lose, and then it'd be over. That'd be worse than 2022, in my opinion. So you cannot have that happen. Like that's, and I've been thinking about that. That's worst case scenario, in my opinion. So I've been on the Vandy train, but I kind of got to see the Vandy train fall off, because at this point, you're beating Kentucky. Kentucky's falling off a cliff after they've beaten Ole Miss. You're beating Mississippi State. There's no chance.
They're playing better though.
I still think they're on the same level as Kentucky. Like I don't see Mississippi State competing. I mean, by the time they play us, they're still going to have one, maybe two wins. So I don't think that game will be even really that competitive. And UTEP. So, but UTEP's, of course, I mean, that's a murder.
Yeah, and I talked about Georgia. This is probably, honestly, the truth right here. The bad road losses is worse than the Georgia losses.
Yeah,
Georgia's had more talent. I mean, definitely. Georgia's
Georgia.
definitely had more talent. There's no doubt about it. I mean, when you lose, I don't really count 2021 because that's kind of an outlier, because you're replacing, you've had 30-some dudes hit the portal.
Yeah.
On top of who graduated. So, I mean, I mean, there was a couple games I'm like, a little bit, maybe the Florida game. I didn't think Florida was that great that year, but I didn't have as much of a problem with. But 2022, South Carolina. 2023, Florida.
Missouri.
I thought Missouri was a lot better than us.
I'm putting it in there. I'm putting it in there every day of the week.
I've heard numerous people say it. I mean, it was pretty bad. The offense, we pretty much got beat down that game.
It was worse than beat down.
Yeah. And then, the 85 Bears / Arkansas Razorbacks. I mean, that the Arkansas fans come in here, like, tell me how dare I say that they're not that good. They should have been 6-0, and at the end they'll be 10-2. They're not that freaking good. They are not that freaking good. I'm telling you. And I know they lost to the number 8 team this past week, but what were we, 4th when we played them? We played awful. That was our worst game of the year to me. I mean, Florida's starting to play better football right now. I don't think Florida's that great, but they are playing better football. They've been playing better football for the last 4 weeks now. Arkansas, that was that game. And, man, what you said is what terrifies me as well, because I'm setting it up as I have to see us beat Georgia to believe it. I have to see it.
Yeah.
So I'm chalking up. We said 11-1, didn't we? So
that was what we both.
We got to win out to go 11-1. But let's say we go lose to Georgia, should take care of business against Kentucky. I think, especially if that being a night game, I expect that to be dark mode night.
Yeah, it'll be
I
crazy.
fully expect that. It's going to be wild. Kentucky's going to get run out of Knoxville that night. Mississippi State is playing better, but I don't think they played a defense like ours. I think we'll slow them down and shut them down. UTEP, like you said, I mean, Georgia's in that. I have to see it. I mean, especially after what Georgia did to Texas. But the most terrifying scenario of this whole season is, like you said, you go to Vandy at last game. We have that bedwetting performance, and Vandy puts us out, which Vandy's playing good football. Vandy's a pretty good football team this year. Vandy is the one you could make a case could be what they lost to Georgia State, Missouri, right? I mean, I know Arkansas had some stuff where they could have said they could have been undefeated too. Vanderbilt has done more. They've shown me more than Arkansas did.
Mm-hmm.
No, that is a man.
And
you're gonna give me nightmares on that one.
Yeah, one of the things about that game that stands out is the quarterback you're facing. I mean, the kid Pavia is good. Like he's a really, 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 really good quarterback in my opinion. He's a great leader. He's everything you want in a quarterback. I mean, he loves Johnny Manziel, and I think that's accurate because to me, he's kind of like Johnny Manziel. Totally opposite on the moral side of things. Like you got the partier and you got the Christian man. But he kind of still plays with that dog mentality. I mean, I think he's a great quarterback. I love the kid. I really do wish him the best. But for Tennessee season, I kind of hope they fall off. I mean, he's still probably going to have a good game against Tennessee. He may be the best quarterback that Tennessee faces this season, considering. Well, I guess Carson Beck. He's woken up since the first half against Bama. I mean, Jalen Milroe, he's still an NFL quarterback. He's going to start on Sundays. He's going to do really well in the NFL, in my opinion. He's just not having a good season. Carson Beck, I'm going to put Carson Beck number one. I saw him play last year. The kid impressed me so much in that game whenever they played us. So right now, I'd honestly rank the second best quarterback we play all season.
Who do you think's better, Milroe? What is it, Flavia? Is that how that's it?
I think it's just Pavia.
I can't remember how it is. I've not watched him that much outside. Would you? And
Vandy?
I don't mean any disrespect when I say because I look at them the same as I do Bama. Any day Vandy loses is a good day for me. I despise them. But who do you think's better, Milroe or Vandy's quarterback?
I would say overall better quarterback, Jalen Milroe. This season, Pavia.
This is a pretty good point right here. Rhonda said Vandy, they did struggle with Ball State last week. The SEC is insane this year. It is insane this year. Like, I knew when I watched week number 1 that South Carolina was the worst team in the conference. I knew it.
Yeah.
And I evidently totally underestimated them. They're not that bad of a football team. They should have beaten LSU. I thought they got a raw deal. They could have beaten Alabama as well. Ole Miss handled them. Other than that, South Carolina, I'll give them credit. They're better than I thought they were. Kentucky, man. I think Stoops should have got out last year and went to A&M. Why he could have. And if you're Kentucky, I think it's going to go the same route with Stoops that it went with Calipari. You just kind of get to that point. Yeah, we're doing fine, but who's going to get us that next level? And Kentucky's got money to do that. I mean, you see what Stoops has done. So I still think there's another level.
Yeah.
If Kentucky can do it in baseball and basketball, they can do it in football too. I think somebody at some point.
That's something you also have to realize is if you think about it, their basketball season does play a lot into their future of their athletic program. If they keep Stoops and their new basketball coach does great, they're not going to care about Stoops. They're not going to fire him. I mean, he's the best coach in Kentucky football history. So they're just going to keep him, and they're just going to ride the ship with Stoops. And unfortunately, they're never going to beat Tennessee again, which, I mean, I'm okay with that. I'll sacrifice a good Kentucky basketball season for that, for football's sake.
I guess Kentucky's about the only school in the conference that prioritizes basketball over football. And Auburn doesn't, Alabama doesn't, even though Alabama
fans do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know about as far as, I mean, I don't know of any of the other, maybe there's somebody I'm forgetting here, but Kentucky prioritizes basketball. Yeah. Everybody else, the priority is football. This is a pretty good question, but I think this is an easy answer on this one. Would you rather go 11-1, win the SEC championship, get knocked out of the first round, go 10-2, no SEC title, make the Final Four? This is an easy one to me.
That's a no-brainer. And I will say the same thing about the SEC tournament in baseball and basketball and the SEC championship in football. It means nothing anymore.
Yep.
You get a trophy, and that's the only good thing you get out of it. this earlier today, I was on my lunch break and I tuned in a little bit to 99.1, the Sports Animal, and it was David. The first name was David. I'm pretty sure it was David Ubben, known Tennessee hater. He was talking about Tennessee's playoff chances, and he literally said if Tennessee finishes 10-2, not only are they in the playoff, they're hosting a playoff game. For him to say that means a lot,
so?
considering the aspect of how the rest of the season is going to go for everybody. A 10-2 SEC team like Tennessee, there's a really, really, really high chance that they get to host their own playoff game.
I think there's a good chance they would. That I'm same as you on that one. Give me the Final Four. Give me getting to the Final Four on it, because it would be nice to win an SEC championship again. Don't get me wrong, but in the grand scheme of things, would I rather go further in the playoffs, or would I rather win championship? That's no brainer to me. I've been an open advocate while I've done YouTube channels for a few years now, especially with basketball. I don't give a crap about it. I was happy when we won it a couple years ago, but what come of that? We come up and got bounced in round number 2 on it.
Mm-hmm.
What would I rather have? Like last year when we got put out of round 1 of the SEC tournament, I did not care. I'll take the Elite 8 over winning the SEC tournament going out in the second round.
I have another point on top of that. If you go 11-1, you win the SEC championship game, and you lose. That is so much more of a disappointment compared to going 10-2 and making a run in the playoffs, actually winning a playoff game. You got to think of the fact that that's a total disappointment. You're 11-1. You're like, oh my gosh, we're playing in the national championship game, and you choke. And then you're 10-2. You're like, we're not even really a top 2 team in the SEC. Essentially, we win a playoff game and we get to play in like the Rose Bowl or something. So like that's huge in my opinion.
I mean, I compare it to like baseball, like the last 2 years and this year. Like the last 2 years, the Braves had won the division, and then Philly got in the wild card and bounced them out.
Yep.
Which season would I take? I'll take Phillies getting further than they did. Just like this year, the Phillies won the division. The Mets, the wild card, the Mets. I know the Mets got bounced last night, but I'll take the Mets season over the Phillies. With it, go Yankees. But that's gonna be a fun series.
It's gonna be
I know you'll be fired up for that one.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that's like with baseball this past season. Anybody listen to me on here? I was like, if we get beat in the first, get put out 0-2 in Hoover, I don't care. Nope. It's like we lost the first game. People were freaking out. I said, I don't care. But it was like, was it the Mississippi State game when things got chippy? And I think it turned to everybody's opinion, because I was like, I was fired up downstairs. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to lose these freaking guys. And then you get back, you're getting Vandy again. I'm like, I don't want to lose twice to these guys. No. And then you've already made it to the SEC championship. It's like you've gotten here. You might as well win it now. And then, obviously, you want to win the championship because people are like, I don't want that number 1 seed. It's a jinx. Like, somebody's got to break it at some point, bring them all. But I'm totally with you. These SEC tournaments, they're a waste of time. I wish they would do away with the basketball and the baseball tournament. Because, I mean, I think 2 years ago in Tennessee, I watched the last 2 games in Columbia against South Carolina, and I think Tennessee went straight from Columbia to Hoover, and they got beat in 1 game. They end up going to the College World Series. But still, man, it's senseless travel.
I think basketball for sure needs to go. Baseball, I think that's a little bit different because you really don't have the platform that you do to prove that, like, hey, I deserve a spot in the NCAA tournament. But basketball, you see teams like Texas A&M a few years ago, they make a run to the SEC championship game. They don't win it, and they don't get a spot. And that's the same year Tennessee won it, and they still rank Kentucky as a higher seed than they did Tennessee. So it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that year to me proved that tournament's – it's not – there's nothing right now. I think it's so stupid. I've argued with people. To me, it's a no-brainer. In terms of basketball, we're going to get into basketball. I know you got to get off. We'll try to get you out here.
You're fine.
Or if you need to go, you can, and I can go from there, whatever. But to me, it makes no sense at all in basketball. I know we're getting on a tangent here right now, but you play an entire season. I'll take like the Southern Conference, ETSU, for example. If ETSU wins the regular season, Why in the hell do they have to go then win a 3-day tournament to get the automatic bid? You know, months worth of work
gone,
irrelevant if they don't win that 3-day. It's stupid. It's stupid. You could lose every single game of the year, and then you played your best ball for 3 days, you get a bid. That's the dumbest thing to me that there is. If somebody wants to disagree with me, that's fine. Nobody's changing my mind on that one, though. And I can tell you this right now, the NCAA tournament field, people love it. It's great. How much better would it be if all the rightful conference champions got in? You wouldn't have some flake who went 10-40 on the season get hot for 3 days and get in and then get annihilated, in Dayton on Tuesday night. It makes no sense to me. It makes literally no sense to me. But here's a good question. Who do we need to lose that's in the top 10?
It's at this point you can't even pick and choose yet. I mean, the college football playoff rankings haven't even come out yet. So until you see those come out, I wouldn't necessarily pick and choose. I would say
I think we're in good shape if we just lose to Georgia. I think that's not a bad loss. The Arkansas one. We really need Arkansas to win all their games.
Yeah. I mean, and it would be really helpful. It sucks to say this, but you may kind of need Alabama to win in Death Valley against LSU. I mean, if they win in Death Valley against LSU, that's Tennessee. If Tennessee goes 10-2, that guarantees them to host a playoff spot, in my opinion.
Wonder if you get into the way the SEC's going. If you I'm thinking Georgia still has to go to Ole Miss, if I'm not mistaken. If the living freaking legend Lane Kiffin is ever going to beat a good team, that's his chance to do it, finally.
Yeah. It ain't happening.
I think that's right. I don't see it happening either. Let's say Texas loses another game. Let's say LSU has one loss. I don't know how they would rank since that was out of conference.
Yeah.
Really need A&M to lose another one with the way they're playing. You get I don't know. You get some combination of 5 or 6 SEC teams all with 2 losses. That's going to get a little interesting at that point. I don't even care about the SEC championship game, whatever. I mean, I do agree with the general here. I mean, it would be nice to win a trophy, but I just don't think I'm sacrificing.
Yeah.
If I would rather go further. And I totally get it. It would be nice to win an SEC championship again. But, based on the scenario, I would take going further.
What did Green Wave just say? That is an absurd statement. That is absurd. The ACC is not getting 2 spots. Notre Dame's not getting in. They still got to play Army and Navy. They're both undefeated. Like, they're not. I'm sorry. That's just Notre Dame's not getting in. If they lose another game,
Clemson and Miami play each other, though.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to think of how pathetic that conference is.
Yeah, I know, but
that is just completely an awful conference. And Notre Dame, I mean, I'll be a firm believer. They're not getting in. That Northern Illinois loss should have killed them. They should go. If they went 11-1, I still think they shouldn't get in. You lose at home to Northern Illinois, and they ranked Northern Illinois after that, and then they've done what they've done since then, which has been a no-show. You can't put Notre Dame in. I don't care about their brand, but who am I getting? They don't have a brand. That brand's been gone for decades now. So, and the ACC, I mean, that conference is awful. Clemson or Miami.
So here's what you got with Clemson. Clemson plays Louisville. They're at Virginia Tech. They're at Pitt. Then they play the Citadel, and they play South Carolina. South Carolina could play a spoiler on that one, the way they're playing. South Carolina, like I said, they're a lot better than I expected. But and looking at Miami here, I want to look at Miami's schedule as well. Miami has left Florida State this week. They'll drill them. Duke at home, at Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and at Syracuse. Miami's going undefeated on this.
I don't know.
So
they should have 3 losses right now. 3 different calls, 3 different plays go their way or go the opposite way. Miami's not even in conversation anymore at this point. They should have lost 2 or 3 games.
I'm just curious. So if Miami goes to let's say Miami and Clemson win out, Miami goes to the ACC championship. Miami goes undefeated. Clemson goes with one loss. Clemson beats them. They're both getting in.
No.
I guarantee it.
No. What did they just do
Miami's
to
only
Florida
losses
State?
against.
What did they just
What's
do to
that?
Florida State last year? Florida State went undefeated. And what did they do to
This
them?
is a 12-team playoff, though. You're going to have two one-loss teams with Clemson losing to Georgia, Miami losing to Clemson.
I mean, that's the only Miami and Clemson are the only two teams in the conference.
Right. And if that's their only loss, I would almost bet money.
I think a 3-loss SEC team would get in over a 11-1 team out of those two.
I don't think it would.
Clemson would be the only team that would have a conversation in that, considering that they played Georgia. Miami, in my opinion, doesn't. They don't have that conversation.
I think just if Clemson is one loss and they beat Miami and it's a close game, there's no way Miami would drop all the way out of the top 12.
I think they would. You cannot convince me that a 9-3 Alabama team wouldn't get in over an 11-1 Miami team.
Probably an 0-12 Alabama team would get in over anybody. So,
no. I would say, I mean, look at Alabama's losses in that point. The Vanderbilt loss sticks out, but that's probably a loss to, of course, Tennessee, and then LSU. That's 2. They lost 3 road games.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, you got to look at Tennessee though. If Arkansas, who knows how that loss is going to look when it's all said and done too.
It'll probably look. It'll probably look awful, but.
Let's see. What is Bama's remaining schedule? I've seen a few people mention. You mentioned, are they at LSU?
It's at LSU, and that's it. That's all they got.
All right. They've got Missouri at home this week. Off a week at LSU. Mercer at Oklahoma, which Oklahoma's a mess. And then Auburn at home. So, yeah, LSU's going to be the only. I don't see Alabama losing any of the other ones. Missouri.
The Big Ten. I mean, you have Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State right now are all locks to get a bid.
Yep. And then how's it working with non-Power 5 or non-Power 4? I mean, because, you take like a Liberty goes undefeated, they're probably getting in.
Yeah, mate. I think it's good for the game of football if you throw in a team like that in the 12th spot if you have to. I think if you go 12-1, you have. I mean, not 12-1, 12-0. You have to be undefeated, unless you're Boise State, because you have Ashton Genty, which I'd love to see him play anybody. Because I mean, he lit up Oregon, so he can do it against anybody.
See, Oregon's got Illinois this week at Michigan. That could be interesting.
Illinois is a good football team.
Yeah, Maryland at home, at Wisconsin and Washington. So I mean, Illinois is pretty good. At Michigan, it's never easy
Indiana.
to go to Michigan.
Indiana.
They don't play Indiana. No.
Well, I'm just saying Indiana in general. The Hoosiers.
Yeah, let's see what they are rolling. They are
rolling. I'm rooting for them.
Washington. Oh, there are some interesting. Well, Indiana plays Ohio State next to last game.
Yep.
Indiana's got Michigan. They've got Washington this week.
An 11-1 Indiana team gets in over an 11-1 Miami team.
Yeah,
or it would be 12-1 Miami team because there's 12 games in the regular season. So
let's see here. You're going to get Ohio State's got Nebraska this week, which Nebraska, they're not going to have any trouble. At Penn State, November 2nd. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Purdue at Northwestern. Indiana, November 23rd, and then Michigan. So Ohio State's got they still got a pretty tough little schedule left.
But they're still getting they're kind of like Bama. They're getting in because of who they are.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if they've got no more than 2 losses, they're in.
And if you think
Penn State's at
the Oregon loss isn't that bad.
No, that was a close game, and Oregon's number 1 now, aren't they? So
yeah.
Penn State's at Wisconsin, host Ohio State, host Washington, at Purdue, at Minnesota. You can't take Minnesota for granted, man. They're playing pretty good football.
Minnesota fan here.
Are you?
Yeah.
Rowing the boat?
Yep. My creative player played for him for 2 seasons. So
you remember us rowing the freaking boat in baseball? The year when I taught you.
No, I don't
Or
remember.
no, that was the year after. That was the year after. That was one of our things.
Row the boat.
They brought in the freaking paddle and we were rowing the boat on it. Boise State, somebody said getting that 12th spot. So there's your playoffs. That's a scenario. It is wide open.
It is.
There are so many scenarios can come out of this that it's I think like you said, it should be getting, what do we go? Normally week 8 is when the I guess the rankings
November.
come out.
Always just November.
Man, there's going to be it doesn't matter if they put the whole field in. Somebody outside of it would have a beef on it. Yeah. It's going to happen this year. Could Army? Yeah, somebody mentions here. You mentioned could Army or Navy get in?
I think the bad thing about that is the fact that they play the conference championship game and then the next week play the Army Navy game.
Let's just see here.
Which
Army and Navy are they still independent though?
As far as I know, I mean, I've saw things in the past. It's like in the past few weeks that said there's a potential they play in the conference championship game and then the next week play in the Army Navy, which that'd be the different factor because if one team sweeps, of course, but that's hard to do. I mean, you see it with Georgia and Alabama when they play in the SEC championship game and the national championship game. It's hard to sweep.
Army they're at Notre Dame, November 23rd. They play UTSA the 30th. Then they're off December 7th. Army Navy games December 14th.
All that matters is if they're in the same conference.
Let's see. First in the AAC. Looks like Army they are in a conference. Yeah. Both of them are.
So that
last I thought they were independent. So okay.
There's a huge chance they play in the conference championship game, and then they have to play each other again the next week after for the Army Navy game, which would be crazy, especially if they both beat Notre Dame.
That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Well, I mean, you have to think.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm saying it's dumb.
No,
conference championship before game.
Are you going to push back the conference championship game the week after the Army Navy game? Or are you going to move the Army Navy game up to the same week as the conference championship games? Because that's the only option.
That's what I would do.
But that takes away the historical aspect of the game. Do you do that? True.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, everybody in America watches it. I've always watched it. So.
Or
it's also the only thing on.
Conference championships.
No, I think you keep them for football. Just because that's going to play a huge factor in playoff spots.
Yeah. They definitely have more bearing. I mean, like you mentioned with the ACC, I mean, Clemson and Miami, I don't know if I'd say foregone conclusion, but they're really the only two decent teams in the conference.
I would bet a lot of money that Clemson's in, and then Miami. I think Miami's going to lose one, unless I thought the same thing about TCU, though, so you never know.
Now, I say they're the only two decent teams. SMU's pretty good. They're 6-1. Pitt is undefeated. Clemson goes to Pitt. That could be a game worth watching. Duke 6-1. I mean, Duke's played pretty good football. Syracuse 5-1. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some teams that can shake things up a little bit in the ACC. It's I still don't think it's that good of a conference, but I don't know. Maybe Clemson, Miami are not the shoe-ins that we're saying either with some of these other teams. I don't know who. Let's see. I want to see SMU's schedule because they've been pretty interesting, actually. Let's see. They're at Duke. Pitt plays at SMU.
We'll see. Miami doesn't play SMU. So, I mean, unless Clemson and Miami both play SMU, then that's right now
neither one of them
team in the conference. I mean, that's your third best team in the conference right now. So,
yeah, neither one of them do.
So I mean,
this is true right here. 10-2 Tennessee is not a lock.
I think it is. I mean, I
think it should be, but
I don't see how it isn't. And I'm going to be honest with that. I don't see how it is. I mean, you lost to Arkansas and Georgia. Unless Alabama completely falls off the train wrecks or the train tracks. I think Tennessee gets in. I mean, David Ubben literally said it today. If he said it, If he said a 10-2 Tennessee team is hosting a playoff game, I don't see how you're not in, because there's a lot of chaos that's going to happen.
I think if the loss is Georgia, you have to put them in.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to. If it goes 3 losses, you're probably done with. But
yeah,
if it's
and
Georgia,
especially they could beat a really good Vanderbilt team last game of the season.
Yeah, we'll see on that, man. We got a lot of conversation to have about that down the line for sure. This one's pretty interesting, but
basketball.
Yeah, man. Are we ready? Let's see if we can fit a little basketball. We said it's not just Bama talk. We're right. We've talked playoffs for a bit. That was definitely on my agenda for some playoffs. We'll wrap up on that one. Great win for Tennessee. I don't care how it looked. The Florida game, nor the Bama game, where there are things we were probably unhappy with. Sure. Never will I complain about a win over Florida nor Alabama. Never. Never, ever, ever. I don't care what it is. Great job by Josh Heupel and staff by finding a way to win. There's many years Tennessee loses both those games the last 2 weeks. There's just no doubt about it. Let's shift to basketball, guys. And I actually released the House of Orange preview last night. I'm going to be totally honest on that video. It was closer to 30 minutes. To me, I'm pretty honest with my content. There's videos I'll say, man, it was okay. It wasn't that good. That was some of my best content that I've put out. I can talk any of the sports. More than any baseball, I can talk basketball pretty good too. I know this basketball, or I feel like I know this basketball roster very well just from end of season, because this is really what I got thoroughly into when I started the channel this year. Make sure you check that out if you want a real in-depth, detailed look at this roster. But Tennessee scrimmage, Davidson on Sunday. It was said when I was reading today, I think it's 24/7. VolQuest talked about it a little bit as well. I think Tennessee won like 81-63. Chaz Lanier, 27 points. What surprised me, Felix Akpara went for 20. How much have you studied this basketball roster going in? I know you told me you were in pretty thick football mode. But
I mean, the basketball roster, I've put a lot more looking into it. I mean, the only guys that see in the court other than Sakai Ziegler that's under 6'3" is nobody. Everybody's 6'3" or higher. That's not named Sakai Ziegler, and that's a huge thing for this team. And there's probably 8, 9 guys in that mix. Like, there's going to be a lot of guys get on the court, and that's a good problem to have. Considering you may not have your Dalton Connect where you're just kind of relying on one guy to score. And that's a good thing of kind of getting rid of those veteran guys that have been a part of the program for a decade. You get to see different guys. You get the opportunity to lean on different guys more. And this basketball team this year is going to be totally different. And I hope everybody's ready for that. And it may take some adjusting to get to that point. This is going to be a totally different team than we've ever seen under Rick Barnes. There's no veteran guys really that have just been in the program and played and earned their spot other than really Sakai Ziegler. So it's a lot of new faces and a lot of guys that have a lot to prove, because most of them haven't proved anything yet. So basketball team's really exciting. Looking forward to them.
Could Rick Barnes win a national championship this year?
It's always a possibility. I mean, it was a possibility last year. Dalton Connect could have taken you all the way to the national championship game if Zach Edey didn't stand in the way, or if he had a competent center. So,
yeah. I mean, that was the Achilles heel of the team. That was the common denominator, the common factor last year. They didn't have that guy in the middle. I feel like they have it with Akpara this year. You're going to have the defense. I mean, the rankings come out. Tennessee's 12th in the AP poll. Ken Palm rankings, which I talk about a lot. They've got them 13th. They've got them 35th in offensive efficiency, 4th in defense, which is not a surprise. Jimmy Dykes, man, he put out a top 20. His last, he put Tennessee 5th. He said people are sleeping on this Tennessee team right here. And I like Jimmy. Maybe Jimmy Dykes. He's kind of a Tennessee homer.
He's a homer.
I mean, he's got a daughter, cheering.
Yeah, I see him in Knoxville all the time. So,
yeah, I was wondering if he lived down there or not. Yeah, I like him though. Sure I think he's pretty fair, but he definitely gives Tennessee their praise. That helps out a lot. He's high on them. I've talked about it with this team and what they had last year at the end of that season. Like you said, appreciate Josiah Jordan-James, appreciate Santiago Vescovi. It was time. It was time for some new blood in this program. And we kind of had what we had with those guys. And I said it the day of the Purdue game after it's over. I said, if Jonas Adu hits the portal, and I'm normally not one to say that about guys, but I was pretty fired up with him. I said, if he hits the portal, I'm fine with it. I'm still to this day, I am fine with it because you had to rely on, of course, Tobey Awaka did what he could against Zach Edey. It was total mismatch size-wise. And, of course, when they let Edey just maul people as well. But then J.P. Estrella had to come in, and he fought his hind end off.
He played
but
good.
You've got your all-SEC center sitting over pouting and then packing his bags and hitting the road. I mean, forget that, man. I hope he's going to get a nice reaction. I have a feeling when he comes back with Arkansas this year. But to me, with this team, West Side Connect. Have you heard that one already?
Yeah. How's it going?
And that was pretty awesome. So Dalton Connect and that went off. If you've not seen that, it was pretty awesome. We'll see what he does, but that was some big time playing the other night. This team, to me, like you said, looking at this roster out of guys who actually play, Zakai Ziegler is 5'9". Mm-hmm. The next closest guy to him is Bishop Boswell and Jemai Mashak at 6'4". Grant
Jordan
Hurst
Gainey
6'2". Who is?
Jordan Gainey 6'3". That's the only.
I got him 6'4" on here.
Well, I don't think he's 6'4", personally. I think he's 6'3".
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen some of those. So we'll say 6'3". We'll go with that since you've seen him in person. But this is a big team. It was said in the scrimmage, of course, the big guy coming in is Chaz Lanier. I don't know if Chaz Lanier will be Dalton Connect, but I think Chaz Lanier will definitely be their main guy. I'm high on Igor Milicic. It said he had a little bit of a rough scrimmage yesterday. We'll see how it goes on Sunday against Indiana. I think it's going to be an overall better team.
You also have Mr. Darlin Stone Dubar.
Yep. Number one offensive player in college basketball last year in Chaz Lanier. Number 5 in Darlin Stone Dubar coming in. How does that translate? We'll see. But you got to like that. And I know I can't remember the numbers, but Dubar did it against Duke when they played them too.
Yep.
I mean, he just feasted on lower level competition. He did it against the good teams when he played them too. Yeah, this was a blessing. I've always been a Laker. I'm not a LeBron fan. I've always been a Laker fan, going back all the way to Showtime Day. My wife said you would have thought Tennessee won the national championship again that night because it kept going. I was like, man, if he could fall a few more picks, and then it kept on keep on falling, and then it came up to Philly at 16. I was like, please don't pick him. And then when it fell Lakers, it was pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm excited. This is the most excited I've been about Lakers basketball in a while now. But Lanier, I think, is going to be the guy. Jemai Mashak is the most underrated player possibly in all college basketball. He is anybody that listened, Dalton Connect talked why he got so much better last year. Iron sharpens iron. He went against, to me, is the best defensive player in college basketball in Jemai Mashak. Dubar, Milicic, Akpar, I think these guys fit in well. What do you think about the Cam Carr hype? Think it's too much?
I love the kid. I mean, he came in last year and he did the Gaston Moore. He's just letting it fly. I mean, you couldn't tell him not to shoot the ball because, I mean, he was going to shoot the ball whether you liked it or not. And you saw him, Rick Barnes bench him a few times because of that. He's just going to go in and he's going to shoot the ball. It doesn't have to go in, but, I mean, he made him last year. So I like the kid. I mean, he's a great kid. He's not afraid to shoot, and that's what you like to see.
Rick's got that dry sense of humor. It makes it even funnier because he's like, well, I'll tell you, Cam Carr, he's got to lead the nation in shots per minute.
Yeah.
When he comes in. Yeah. He didn't make a shot he didn't like. But I think he's going to be one of those guys, though. If you come in, he comes in off the bat, he hits that first one, you might see him go on a streak.
Yep.
You might see him come in and miss that first one and go on a streak too. But this is a guy that there was talk of Cade Phillips hitting the portal. He stuck around. Do you ever see any of these guys around campus much?
Not really the basketball players, no. I mean, I got a class with Dubar, but it's online, so I'm not going to make the comment that I could say about Dubar, but that's not.
Oh gosh,
that's not appropriate for right
now. Phillips stayed around. He's put in the work. He's transformed his body. They said he played good ball yesterday, and it seems like he'll be a pretty big part of the rotation this year. I think Okpara, man, is going. They talked about some of the lineups they went with yesterday. One of them had either Okpara or Estrella. Excuse me, Cade Phillips, Igor Milicic. That's a pretty big front line. And a lot of you guys, if you've listened to my basketball content, if you've heard me talk about Igor Milicic Jr., I'm high on this dude. He's 6'10". He can dribble. He can shoot. He can pass. He can block shots. He can rebound. He can do all these things. And Rod Clark talked about with him. He said, we put him out at point guard, and he looked pretty good at it. Not saying he will, but I would be really impressed to see a 6'10" point guard for sure. You think Ziegler can make an NBA roster?
Of course.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't see why he couldn't.
I don't know, man. I hope he does, but the fact that Kennedy Chandler can't stay in the league.
Well, I mean, Kennedy Chandler, he was one and done. So
Kennedy Chandler, I wonder how much he would have helped himself staying another year or two.
Yep. It helps.
Yeah.
I don't see why guys
Springer, Keon Johnson. You can't blame, I guess, a guy with their first-round pick for going.
Yeah.
Chandler could have definitely benefited from another year because he really hit his stride at the end of that year.
Mm-hmm.
And, Mac McClung can't stay in the league either. It's a hard league. I don't know that Ziegler can stay in it. I would love to see him do it. I think he's going to be one of the best point guards in the league. And it may be a case where things are shifting where these guys that are staying in college a little longer, like a Dalton Connect, I could see Dalton Connect win Rookie of the Year this year.
Yep.
He may not, but he is still with LeBron and AD, so that Lakers roster is better than people give it credit for. But we'll see on it. I think with this, the big thing to me is being able to defend the middle. That's what got Barnes and those teams last year. That was the difference. If you come up and go against Kansas, Hunter Dickinson's back for his 15th year this year. We played against him against Michigan, 3 or 4 years ago when Chandler was here?
Yeah, it was Chandler's last game.
Yeah, and Dickinson's still in college. Come on, man. I'm glad this COVID year stuff is about done with. But I like this team. I think it's a very versatile team. My concerns are, do they have a backup behind Okpara that can handle the middle? And do they have a backup point guard? Lanier can run it. Meshack has run it. We'll see. Gainey has run it. But, there's still, you got to factor in, there's a drop-off. I think, to you, what's your ceiling for this team? Is it national championship?
Yeah, I think it's national championship, I think. This team, there's so much hype surrounding it. I don't see a scenario where they're not good. There's too many guys on the team for it just to be a total bust. You totally nailed the transfer portal. You brought in Milicic, you brought in Okpara, you brought in Lanier, you brought in Darlin Duverstone, all these guys, and those are great players. They aren't depth pieces. And Rick Barnes finally took advantage of the portal and the fact of actually getting a few guys. He nailed it, of course, with Dalton Connect, but it took him a long time to finally nail that guy. And there's a possibility he nails all 4 of them this year. And that's huge. If you can nail all 4 of your transfers like that, that automatically puts you in a really good chance come March.
Yeah, I'll think about that. You hit a great point. how many times did Barnes hit the portal and it didn't
Swing and
pay
miss.
off?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were numerous. It was almost to the point I'm like, man, we got to be careful going to the portal. But then you get connect, and to me, the most impressive thing about what Barnes is doing now is you're seeing a lot of these coaches get out with the new stuff. Barnes has embraced it. I think his high school recruiting is starting to lack a little bit, but when you're going out and getting who you want in the portal, he's not necessarily getting the overall number one portal classes, but all these Tennessee teams, they're about, getting, it's about the fit, and they're getting guys. And for everything I read, they could have had Cade Tyson too, who went to North Carolina, the Belmont transfer.
Yeah,
but
they could have had him.
Saying there was fear about camp. I would have loved for him gotten Cade Tyson, because that would have been another gunner out there who can shoot the lights out. But I guess if you risk losing a Cam Carr, maybe it's not worth it. But I don't know. That's when I wish they really could have gotten there. But basketball starts Sunday, 3:00. It's an exhibition game against Indiana. It'll be on the SEC Network Plus at 3:00. Once that thing's over, I'm planning on going live. If these guys want to go with me, they can. If not, this is kind of one of our things we've done since the beginning. So definitely be live, talk about that for at least a few minutes. Got a concert to go see Sunday night, but definitely go get a little time in on that one. And then they'll be off the week after that. And then Monday, November 4th, Tennessee will have their opener against, why am I blanking out? Is it Gardner-Webb?
Yeah, I think so. It's always a very, very slow start to the season.
I know Louisville is the second game. I do know that one.
It's Gardner-Webb.
All right, that's what I was saying. Gardner-Webb is the first one, then Louisville. I honestly don't think the non-conference schedule is that bad this year.
It's not.
It's
especially
really one of the weaker ones that they've put together in a while, I think. What was that again? I'm sorry.
One of your strongest games was Virginia, and their coach is now gone. So,
Virginia, and then you play either Baylor or St. John. More than likely Baylor. Baylor's the highest ranked non-conference team possibly on the schedule, and you may not even play them.
Yeah, you do play Miami and Illinois, though. So and you do play at Illinois. So,
that'll be a return from last year. And Illinois, that ended up being a pretty good team last year as well. Miami was pretty good last year, but this is one of the weaker non-conference schedules I've seen in a long time. So, there's a case could be made this team could run the gauntlet in non-conference play. I don't know if it's realistic. You've always got to expect you could lose one, especially going to Illinois or going to a Louisville or somebody, just because it's a tough road game. And they go to Madison Square Garden, which is a house of horrors for them. But I think this team's got a lot of potential this year as well. We'll talk about them more later. I know we need to get this thing wrapped up. Real quick, hit fall ball. I said we was going to talk it all tonight. May have to break them up into a couple shows so we can cut these down to an hour. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're definitely going to look at going live a little later, because we're up to 172 people right now, which is pretty awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, sticking with us tonight. Seems like the crowd picks up the later we go. So that's awesome, man. Thank you guys so much. But baseball talk is going on. I put a vague tweet out today. I don't get a lot of interaction with my tweets. I don't even think people give a crap about my tweets most of the time. I've picked up a lot of followers recently. I appreciate some of you guys for tweeting it out. I was on the infamous number 666. Had to get off that. Picked up a lot of followers. So thank you guys for sharing me out. But put out a tweet today. I said I was interested to see the notes tonight. There was some big boy baseball going on today. I know that a highly touted freshman pitcher was supposed to face the big boys tonight. And I did see a little bit of report. I know Alex Perry did go yard on Tegan Coons tonight. Liam Doyle was supposed to pitch opposite of Coons. I can't imagine a lot of runs were getting scored this year. But, a few things I've kind of figured out who it seems like is going to be I think there's one spot left in the rotation. I'm kind of seeing where the freshman guys, which guys are going to be really hard to keep out of the lineup. I've had a guy tell me, he said, I know you said there's going to be a drop off in offense. Said, I don't think it's going to be as much of a drop off as you think it's going to be. And I think, have you looked much into baseball yet? You kind of kept, I know I've kind of filled you in a little bit on some stuff.
Filled me in. Yeah, you definitely know a lot more than I do as of right now.
Oh, as of right now, huh? I see. Now, Andrew Fisher is going to be a guy who I feel is going to be a huge pickup. He's going to be a huge pickup coming from Ole Miss. He's been killing it in scrimmages. Jay Abernathy's a guy to keep your eye on. He's a freshman coming in. If you'll notice the scrimmages, he's leading off about every scrimmage in left field. I think that's a sign of things to come. Anybody you're expecting from last year maybe was not as much of a factor that you think will be this year's, say, Dylan Dryling, Kavaris Tears type guy?
Not necessarily, because you didn't really see those. You didn't see too many guys get those kind of opportunities. Bargo and Chapman's really the only choice, in my opinion, that I think you could really go with. But Chapman, he started. Bargo kind of come on late. Bargo definitely has the chance to do a lot more, in my opinion, than Chapman does. I'd go Bargo, even though people are already, of course, high on him. I just think that he has a tremendous season. Or even maybe.
I think that's the too obvious. Cannon Peebles has looked good. I think that's a very big positive. A guy I talked a lot about last year, he redshirted Stone Lawless as seems guy. There's going to be a hard time. Is he?
Yeah. Oh, dude, that kid. Considering I went to all but one of the tournament games in Knoxville, and then the regular season games too. That kid is massive. He was the biggest player on the team by far, just like size-wise. He looks like he can line up at tight end.
Yeah, I think they're going to expect, but I think from what I've seen, it's going to be hard to keep him out of the lineup.
Probably.
This year. It seems like with catchers, you've got Peebles, who honestly was a bit of a disappointment last year because there was high hopes on him. But
his on-base percentage there, the last however long you want to consider the season, he was a huge part in Tennessee getting the job done just because he got walks, he got on base, and that's all that matters.
His
really.
Walks, man, were huge.
He was like I think at one point, whenever I calculated it, he was at 24% of the time he was coming up to the plate and he was getting a walk, which is absurd.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. He had some big at bats later on. And had that home run at Kentucky in the if game on Sunday. He did some good things. And where would the team have been if Peebles would have won that job, though? You take out all the Cal Stark back picks at first.
Yeah.
How many times did he fire that team up? Many big did he get them out of binds with that?
He proved me wrong. Like I was a big Cal Stark hater. The kid did what he did at the plate, but behind the plate, he made up for it. And I'll be the first to say it. He didn't do good whatsoever at the plate until the postseason started. So he came alive in the postseason, which was that Tennessee doesn't win a national championship if he doesn't have the performances that he did in the postseason. But his defense, as good as it was, you had to put him in there. I don't care how highly touted Peebles was.
Well, it was People's job to lose, and he lost it.
Yeah.
I just wonder where Tennessee's at if they don't have those Cal Stark back picks. He bailed them out of some innings, which were huge in that regard. I think they got a pretty good little stable of catchers. Bargo can't catch. Levi Clark is a stud coming in. I think he'll play more of the field right now, but I saw he did throw somebody out stealing today. Chris Newstrom can play anywhere, freshman. It's going to be a fun year, man. There's a lot. I can sit here and talk it all night. I know we need to wrap this thing up. We're going on close to 2 hours. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's just a lot of good stuff going on right now. We ain't even talking Lady Vols tonight. I've not necessarily been a Lady Vols connoisseur. I'm all in on them going forward. It's a big part of this channel, and we'll definitely talk that as well at some point. But any final thoughts tonight before we wrap this thing up and get out of here?
Nothing necessarily that we haven't talked about. Update, my ears are still indeed hurting.
From that popped in crowd noise?
Yep, from the popped in crowd noise.
It's the craziest thing I've heard. It's ridiculous. Well, we're going to get out of here, guys. Thank you so much for your support. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, the share, the like. Check out the Patreon. Check out the membership tiers as well if you want to give that super chat, super thanks. Those are always appreciated as well. He's Kerry, Frank Rock, House of Orange Sports Channel. Have a great rest of your evening, guys. And last but most certainly not least, go Vols.